attractions or shopping malls or anything out there.
Well, the fact that nobody did anything is why I don't think that this has any weight to it.
Yeah,
well,
nobody
obviously you don't
yeah.
see the part here, right? Is that the whackers were whackers, right?
Yeah.
Whackers. They were the pivotal. They were the linchpin of the whole operation, right?
Oh, they must have
So they
been,
were
yeah.
going to be like they were going to open the floodgates. As soon as they sold, everyone around them was going to say, "Oh, well, they got so much money for their tiny little piece. We'll sell, for pennies on the or dollars on the penny or whatever."
Yeah,
Pennies
exactly.
on the dollar.
No,
I think dollars on the penny. I think I like better.
They would think
yeah.
it was dollars on the penny, but it was actually pennies on the dollar, and they weren't getting really as much. And blah blah blah. I mean, that was obviously the whole thing, right?
That must have been the
They were
plot,
to come
but then-
in and offer the old people what would have to those people been a relatively large amount of money, but really for
Yeah.
the property, not
Yeah.
so much. And then demolish the whole thing and put up a glitzy new suburb.
Yeah, or a shopping mall or something.
Yeah,
But, yeah.
something that was going to be multi-million dollars. worth
Yeah,
of
but
income.
those evil whackers spoiled the whole plan, and
Dang
so
it.
nothing ever happened. Yeah.
No, I think this is a dumb theory. I'm
It
sorry.
is
I don't
a-
think you're dumb. I think it's a dumb theory.
Oh no, it's not my theory. Yeah, but I had to put it out there because other people think so.
Yeah.
And there's another kind of similar kind of theory, which is that one of their neighbors wanted the house. This idea is that one of the neighbors maybe wanted their house because it was a kind of suitable thing to put up a family member, kind of what we would call a mother-in-law apartment.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right? And so their house was not that big. If you look at it on Google, which I guess I'm not going to give you the address, so you can't really do that. But we're talking a couple of bedrooms, maybe a couple of bedrooms, one bath.
2-story house.
Modest little place, and so it would have been a good place for your mother-in-law, whoever. Or another variant on this is maybe a neighbor wanted it to expand their agricultural operations, although it doesn't seem to be much in the way of agriculture going on in that neighborhood, so I'm really doubting that one.
Actually, that's not true.
Yeah?
If you pull the satellite footage and you look at it over time, to the north of them, there's actually directly to the one property to the east of them, you can see that there's a bunch of big plots that get farmed. So actually,
Oh, yeah. No, I know about that, but I mean, their immediate neighbors, so don't seem to.
yeah, the one right next door
really?
was farming a big chunk of ground right there. You could see, like.
Oh, really? The one just to the east of them?
You can't tell if you just go to maps and turn on the satellite. What you have to do is put on the time progression, and then you can see where things get mowed and they get tilled, and so they were working it. I don't know what the hell they were growing, but they were doing something to it.
But
Girls.
but I mean, realistically, I think what the point Joe's trying to make, right, is that like, even if somebody is, working the land, the plot of land that the whackers own was really so insignificant,
kind of negligible. Yeah, compared to
that
what
like
they
for
had.
a 10 years campaign, and then again, nobody ever had actually approached them.
Yeah, somebody.
You
could
would
have
think
said,
that at some point one of the neighbors would have said, it sounds like you guys are really suffering.
Yeah.
Why don't I take this off your hands for you?
But
But
for
nobody
half what
did.
you paid for it. No, nobody ever did. That's true. And you think they would have actually turned up the heat a little bit too? Although I guess you could argue that they did with that 1993 attack on Dorothy. I
True.
suppose you could say that. Yeah, but the mother-in-law apartment then makes a little bit more sense than somebody just expanding their farm. Although you'd think it would be one of the neighbors immediately adjacent, right? Because if it's somebody down the road a little ways, well, what's the point of that? You can
Really, yeah.
There's got to.
Well, I've got to say, not everybody wants their mother-in-law right next door.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to have a little distance.
Oh yeah, for sure. But
Well-
then why focus on the whackers? I mean, really.
I don't know,
Yeah.
Joe. I mean, again, this is just as much hooey as the last one that we talked about.
Maybe
in
it's
terms
the-
of theories.
Maybe it's the people who are not the next door, but the next door to the next door neighbor,
Uh-huh.
and they thought, well, we'll surround the next door neighbor and make it so miserable for them to still be there
They'll sell out
that
too.
they'll sell out too, and then we'll get the whole thing.
Oh wow! And then we'll sell it for a shopping mall.
Yeah.
That could have been that.
But again, nobody
still
ever approached
find
them,
that-
so-
Yeah, it's just nobody ever approached them, and also nobody murdered them. I think that'd be easier. At some point in that 10-year campaign, you'd think, why don't we just kill them?
Yeah, you would think
Yeah,
that.
let's just murder them. Yeah. And then you take their blood and you scroll satanic messages all over the walls of the house, and that guarantees you're going to get that house for really, really cheap.
For sure.
Yeah. Although there's one thing about this theory I really like, but it'll explain why this campaign fizzled out in the 90s, which is maybe the mother-in-law finally died and made the whole thing a moot point.
Yeah.
Okay, still a bad theory. All right. Okay, let's move on to our next theory, which this one, somebody was just a dirtbag, which is a real possibility. I mean, it could have been somebody who wanted to stir up a bit of trouble for somebody, make somebody's life a little harder. little more miserable. And based on my own experience, there's a lot of people like that out there. Yeah, there really are.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, and I know, Steve, you had something about that. You wanted to share.
Well, I found a connection to this, which is I know that I can't be the only one that's ever made the connection, but you guys have heard of the Circleville letter writer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Which Circleville is like 2 hours to the southwest of, how do you say this town name again? Massillon?
Massillon. And
Massillon.
oh, by the way, apologies to the residents of Massillon if I'm mispronouncing your name.
Okay, well, we're going to run with that pronunciation. But between 1976 and 1983, somebody went on a massive letter writing campaign in that town, harassing the residents of the town.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there was somebody that they discovered was having, a school bus driver was having an affair with the superintendent, so writing threatening letters. The weird thing was the letters weren't being postmarked from that town. Instead, they were coming from Columbus.
Weird.
Which is, again, like an hour drive away. So it was a really weird thing. But in 1983, the bus driver who was getting accused, all the letters about her affair, found signs on the side of the road saying slanderous things about her, went up to tear it down, saw a box on it, had the wherewithal to stop what she was doing, and somehow Jimmy opened the box to find a gun in it,
Yeah, it was
which they
a booby trap.
they tracked to somebody else, and that poor schleb spent like 10 plus years in the clink for it.
Yeah.
But it stopped. And the thing with the Circleville letter writer is that the guy who went to jail,
Yeah.
he was getting letters in jail from the letter writer. So it's like, it can't be him. But if we look at Bill and Dorothy, when did things start up with them?
84.
84. So
Yeah.
if this guy leaves town from Circleville in 83, late 83, early 84, and moves to this town, it's like, I really kind of enjoyed just jerking people around.
Yeah.
Hey, there's another innocent couple that I can take my wrath out on.
Yeah, but why would he actually physically attack them though?
You've used this term before, escalation. Work
it's not.
through writing all these more vicious things, and then someday, let's take it to the next level. Let's
But
go
he
face to
didn't-
face with them.
I guess.
It's not the same, but it's an interesting connection that
it is.
somebody who went on a campaign for about 10 years in one town disappeared, and a new campaign that lasted about another 10 years started up 2 hours away.
It's true.
Yeah, true. No, it is an interesting connection. Although, the only thing I'm thinking is that he singled out this one set of people instead of a lot of people like he did in back in Circleville.
If it's a Circleville letter writer, that guy went after a lot of the residents of that town.
He did. I'm still kind of curious about that case, but we'll talk about that maybe some other day.
Some other
We'll do
day,
some other mystery,
Yeah.
because it is an interesting story. I know a few people have suggested that one too.
Oh, yeah.
But that's entirely possible that it could have just been some dirtbag. Although, again, this doesn't explain why this particular dirtbag chose the Whackers of all people. Don't really know.
They may have ignited his rage.
Somehow. Well, there's a few possibilities, which is maybe some neighborhood kids had a grudge against them, which happens. I mean, I don't know what kind of people the Whackers were, because I know when I was a kid, we had this one particular old codger that lived down the street from us, and he hated all the neighborhood kids, and we hated them all back. and I actually never did anything to provoke the guy personally, but still, I didn't like him just on general principles, and he didn't
We had
like me because I was a kid.
In my neighborhood, he had the best climbing tree.
Yeah.
Of course, they always have the best something, right?
Oh, exactly.
And it wasn't fenced in or anything, and we always want to climb that tree, and he always come out with his little air gun.
Oh, nice.
He did not like kids. It was just,
Well,
we hated him back, It was just
I
kinda
understand.
you
Well,
go climb his tree because you hate him.
Yeah, I know. But although I actually don't blame him for shooting you kids, because I wouldn't want kids climbing my tree either, for legal enough as well as
I knew
Fair
Joe
enough.
was going to go to legal angle. But anyway,
Yeah. But,
so what? These kids decide that Bill and Dorothy are such old cranks that we're just going to torture them?
Yeah, I don't think it was a bunch of kids. I think what it could have been is that one of those kids grew up, and for whatever reason he remembered his grudge. Maybe he wasn't the most well-adjusted person.
Could have been one of the kids that went to school with their children.
Something like that too. But the reason I don't like this theory is that there's nothing, if you look at their property, there's nothing about it that would actually cause them to actually have to interact with any kids. I mean, there were no attractive nuisances nearby, no great climbing trees. There's no reason for kids to be cutting across their property.
Well, that's why I was saying maybe it was a kid that one of their kids went to school with, and, you know, one day the daughter was trying to date some guy was trying to date their daughter, and Bill came out and did the old, you know, I've got a shotgun, stay away from my girl. You old jerk, and never, I don't know. I mean, you know, he could have done
a mighty long grudge, though.
You know what? It has taken a lot less.
That's true.
To set people off. I mean, it's the McCoys and the Hatfields went at it for years over the littlest crap.
True.
Yeah, true that. So we don't really know. Of course, the Whackers say that they can't imagine who would want to do anything like this to them.
We're very nice people.
We're so nice people. I know. Yeah, apparently they had forgotten about all those people that they fleeced in those pyramid schemes back in the 1970s. But,
they didn't actually do that.
But they did say that they had no idea who possibly could have anything against them. That's what they told the police too. And apparently, so they led blameless lives, and there really was no reason for anybody to hate them. Or maybe they really had screwed so many people they just couldn't pick out any one person in particular.
True.
But on the other hand, if they had successfully screwed so many people, then you'd think they'd be living in a nicer, bigger house too, which they weren't. Really.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything to that.
That house was pretty modest, so I think they probably, you know. But again, you never know when you're gonna, like, you know, even when we try to be a decent human being, you're still getting the wrong side of somebody.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna happen. But yeah, as far as why some random person would select just the Whackers, I just don't know. There are cases where stalkers have started stalking people for no logical reason. I had a friend who knew somebody who was pregnant, young, somewhat attractive, but married and obviously pregnant, and some guy started stalking her, and it was like, what's going on with that?
Yeah,
dude,
just weird.
Yeah, there's no real rhyme or reason to it. So you know that it is possible. So those are some of the theories as to why some mysterious stranger would have done this to the Whackers. Go into our theories phase 2 now.
Phase 2 initiated.
Yeah, there you go. Click.
Oh my God.
Joe, you're showing your age. No computers use tape anymore. And go click.
No,
nothing goes do either. So
crap, my phone will if I ask it to.
You know, I was thinking about the computer on Star Trek. And then
yeah. It's because it had a bunch of cards in it.
Yeah. No, it didn't have cards. It had like all sorts of metal rods clacking around in there. And the Starship Enterprise still.
So phase 2.
You want to talk about phase 2?
I want to talk about phase 2.
All right. Well, this sort of gets a little more interesting, which is that another possibility is that could have been one or both of the Whackers themselves. They were kind of psycho and doing this stuff, you know, themselves for God knows what reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could have been them. Some people have wondered if perhaps it wasn't them, including the police.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, like they talked about before. They asked Dorothy if she thought Bill could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Oh, heavens, no."
Absolutely not. But obviously, some people have wondered this. So we're going to go through these series, and we will answer the question for you, everybody, right? Because we have the answers to everything.
Yep.
Okay, here's another theory that's out there. Again, these are not just my theories or yours. One theory is that Bill did it because he wanted to induce a heart attack. One thing that I didn't mention is that Dorothy had some heart issues back in the.
That's why she was home for when she got attacked the first time.
Yeah, she was recovering from heart surgery, and so he was hoping to induce a heart attack in Dorothy and collect on her life insurance. Which is a possibility, I guess, although I don't know if they actually had a life insurance policy. I'd never heard of one.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it didn't exist.
Wasn't an exorbitant amount, at least, because they would have always mentioned it on Unsolved Mysteries if there was.
I'm sure that's a stock question. Do you have life insurance? How much?
How recently?
How recently? Bam! And you would think that after at least a couple of years of this crap and no heart attack, Bill would have lost his patience and just run her over with a lawnmower.
Something awful.
Yeah.
If he was trying to do that, yes.
Oh my God, I didn't see her. Okay, so maybe not insurance, but maybe Bill did it just because he was kind of sick of Dorothy and wanted her gone, meaning just dead.
Again, trying to induce the heart attack?
Maybe that. Or maybe, he just wanted to scare her into moving out. I'm picturing this scenario where she's like, "Oh, Bill, I can't take it anymore. We've got to get out of here." "Well, I'm not leaving for nothing. They're not running me off my land." "No, I got to go. I just got to go." "Oh, okay, fine. You go." Okay, see ya. And so yeah, kind of a little separation there. That never happened either. It might have been that Bill did it because he was retired, he was bored, and he wanted some attention, or just wanted something to do.
But maybe to flip that around, maybe it was Dorothy, and she did it for that exact same reason.
Maybe because she was retired and bored, or maybe because Bill was retired and bored, she wanted to give him something to do because he was getting on her nerves.
Yeah.
Maybe that was it.
Though, why someone would, hit themselves over the head or otherwise inflict bodily harm just to give their husband something to do.
Well, that's how dedicated a wife she was.
Oh.
Yeah.
We should all strive to be that dedicated.
Yeah,
I
for
see,
sure,
okay.
for sure. Yeah,
Gotcha.
That's the first. Yeah, do that in your honeymoon. Inflict a
Great.
serious head injury on yourself just for your hubby.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'll do that while scuba diving.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
It always works out the best then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Just weight that vest really heavy.
Oh yeah, super
Yeah.
heavy. Hey, and what's another theory? Well, Bill and Dorothy both did it for any mixture of the above reasons. They were bored and wanted attention, maybe. When the discussion's online, I'm sure you guys read a lot of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
At least about half the people out there just don't like this theory. The reasoning is kind of like, I just can't imagine two old people doing something like that. Sure, if they were younger, young people do scummy stuff all the time, but as people cross that line into old age, that scumminess disappears.
Totally
You know,
disappears.
it
Gone
totally
forever.
disappears,
There's
yeah.
no such thing as a scummy old person.
I know, no
That's
such
never
thing.
happened, ever.
Oh, I know, and you can
Ever.
go, and yeah, you can go your whole life with an IQ of 85, but when you cross the age of 65, suddenly you're wise.
Yep.
So don't ask me how it happens.
Okay.
But yeah,
Count
I know.
down the days,
Yeah,
Joe.
yeah,
Count down
I know. So it could be that one of the whackers put on this whole show.
Again,
because-
bodily harm. But
yeah.
okay, let's
well,
go
there
through
is
it.
that, but the story overall doesn't really make a lot of sense otherwise when you really think about it.
I would say that I disagree with that because I just realized you are missing something from this list of Phase 2 suspects.
Oh yeah, who's that?
A family member.
The kids.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so if you stop and think about this, it could have been the kids, or it could have been a grandkid, okay, because they're in their 50s and 60s, so it's possible, but probably unlikely that it was grandkid. But there's a lot of things that make me think that it was family member. I tried to dig up records on anybody in their family because there's the daughters and the son-in-laws, and I got one of our mods who is good with some of that kind of research to help me out to try and find stuff on them. But if you think about it, they changed their phone number multiple times, and the person had it almost right away. They were home, and the person always knew when they were home, or more importantly, when they were gone to break in. And they didn't report the first couple of burglaries, which almost gives me the idea that maybe they knew that the black sheep of the family, was having issues. I mean, could be somebody on medication issues for mental health reasons or just something like that. And so you go, so great. Justin, I figured out, is off of his meds again. We're not going to call the cops. He's going to get the help he needs, and it'll be fine. And then Justin just does it again, and fine. You know what I mean? Like, people do that for their family. They will put up with a lot of crap.
Oh, sure.
And families, I mean, it could be maybe Bill and Dorothy had no idea, but, one of their daughters totally knew and was covering for that person, whether it be, again, for, somebody with medication, because the medication issues is what I always think of when I read about the 6 months to year gaps, because, sometimes people are on the straight and narrow, and then something happens, and suddenly they're akimbo again, and then they are going to go ahead and start doing these weird things. There's just too much that's too close to home for me to say that it's anybody but a family member. That's my problem with this whole story.
I guess I just keep having that issue with the actual physical attacks.
Well, yeah, that's one of
it's
the
one thing
things.
to say, okay, well, Justin was off his meds and came and was like knocking on doors and like writing stupid letters and like kind of doing, almost just like, poltergeisty stuff, right? Kind of just annoying stuff. But it's another thing to say like, and then Justin hit her over the head as hard as he freaking could with a bat and left her for dead. You know what I mean? Like, those
Yeah.
are two very different
But if
things we're
Justin
talking
is
about.
completely off his rocker,
Yeah, maybe.
he may not have that thing. And okay, so the other side of this is, okay, so we're saying maybe this is somebody who's being corrected by their medication. Could be the black sheep of the family who, let's say, has a drug problem, and so they're needing money. So that attack on Dorothy where the guy had the car issues could very easily have been Justin got his buddy Aaron and said, hey, Aaron, go knock on the door and use the phone, and then you leave the door open and I'll come in and I'll clock her on the head and we'll get some stuff so we can score some smack. I mean, it rings of that same kind of scenario.
Yeah, but
and then suddenly
everything was...
Justin and Aaron have gotten off with everything, but then Justin comes to his senses and feels bad and slowly starts giving it back, but is still doing weird crap.
How is he going to give back the stuff that he pawned or traded for drugs?
Yeah, it's a good question.
I don't know the answer to this. I mean, maybe Aaron got cold feet once they left the house. I have no idea what went down here, but my point is, it just seems too close to home. Have you guys, there's the Kuykendall case. Did you guys ever read about that one?
Which one's today?
Okay, this is a family that started getting harassing text messages, and the text messages were supposedly originating from one of their own 16-year-old daughter's phones. And people are like, oh my God, they're being stalked, they're being, so they change phones, and it keeps happening. People, oh, well, they must be hacked. But really, so much evidence. I mean, they went through like 3 or 4 or 5 phones apiece, changing their numbers and changing physical devices, and somehow this kept happening. It's like, no, this is way too close to home. Somebody in the family, probably the owner of the original phone, is doing it, and this makes me think of that same kind of case where it's too easy. It's too easy to say it's some outside mysterious person stalking
China.
them.
Yeah, no, I think,
It was the big panda.
Yeah, I do agree that if it was somebody other than Dorothy or Bill, or Dorothy and Bill, it probably was somebody close to home, like a neighbor or family member, somebody who knew them well enough to know their habits and stuff like that. Yeah, probably so. But then again, let's talk a little bit about Bill and Dorothy as suspects, though, which is, I still think that really, when you think about this case, it makes the most sense. Because, again, the first 2 break-ins, like you say, weren't reported.
In 84.
Because they thought, well, maybe it was a family member. Then why report the 3rd one? If you know it's the same family member, why report that one if you're worried about getting them in trouble? And then, again, we talked a little bit about Dorothy letting a stranger into the house and then just leaving the room. Something most of us just wouldn't do. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't add up.
It doesn't.
Agree, yeah.
It really doesn't. I don't think old people are all that trusting. A lot of people on the web are saying, but old people are so trusting. No, I've met lots of old people that were a lot less trusting than me, and I'm not that damn trusting.
You're not. That's true.
I got to tell you, though, unfortunately, I have family members who are elderly who would do this, who would say the phone is right there and go into the kitchen and start dinking around doing whatever they were doing, and then, because their hearing is crap, not hear anything and presume the person had left. I mean, these are the kind of family members where you're like, please lock your door.
Yeah.
Nope, it's fine. People are great. They're nice. No, they're not.
Yeah. Well, again, this is like, to me, it's because, Dorothy wasn't that old where she's gotten to the point where she's kind of losing it.
No, she's not a doddering old woman.
No, not by any stretch of the imagination. It's not beyond the realm of possibility, but it's just most of us, in fact, almost all of us would want to have sort of an eye on the guy just to make sure he's not, going through your drawers and pocketing stuff while he's pretending to be talking on the phone. And of course, there's the issue of the guy's car. Assuming he parked down the road so nobody would see his car.
So
where the hell did he park?
Are you asserting that this is all made up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the first 2 break-ins were totally made up, fabrications. The third one was staged.
The third one was staged.
Okay,
yeah.
and then Dorothy said, "Okay, Bill, hit me over the head. We're gonna kick it up a notch because we're not getting the attention we want."
She didn't have, what we can tell, any notable injuries from the first assault.
Yeah.
So it could very well be that Bill tied her up and said, okay, hold still, I'm going to open the fridge door and whack you on the noggin with it. That could be the level of... So I get where Joe is going. So far it seems that the pair in tandem could have pulled most of this off.
No, I totally agree with that. I just want to ask clarifying questions because I believe I agree with you. I think the most logical explanation is that they did it together. But
it's the only thing that makes sense of this situation.
The one holdover I do have is the physical injuries, but
Yeah,
even
well-
then, it's kind of like, I don't know, at some point.
Well, we talk about that in a sec. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, we talked about the guy's car. So
The
that's
stolen goods.
stolen goods and stuff like that. I mean, the guy, you know, I mean, I'm sure what was happening. I think I can imagine what happened here, and that is that Dorothy's talking to the police, and she's saying, "Oh yeah, this guy wanted to like, you know, come and use my phone because his car was broken down." And after they got a description of him, they said, "Okay, and by the way, what color was his car? What make was his car?" And she's like, "Car?" And the police are like, "Well, yeah. I mean, if he was broken down, wouldn't it?"
So you're saying she was scrambling
She
to
might
cover
have,
her tracks?
It might be that that hadn't really occurred to her, and she's like, "Oh, well, there was no car. In fact, I asked her about the car. He said he was broken down the road." Of course, the big question is, if he broke down the road, why didn't he stop at one of the other many?
But she was the only one home.
That's entirely possible too. But still, that's just another thing
Agreed.
about this story that doesn't
Agreed.
quite add up.
Yeah.
Is the missing car. The another thing that doesn't quite add up is the stolen items being returned. If, as you say, Steve, the person had a fit of remorse, perhaps, like the family member, I could sort of see that happening. Except, of course, if you know somebody who steals them for drugs, he's not going to have them in his hands for more than like 5 hours,
Right.
Well,
or they're gone forever.
I guess the supposition is he could have pawned them
And
and then
actually
gotten
got
them back. I mean, it could be a small enough place that things like a movie camera don't move that fast.
Yeah.
And he got them back, and that's why they were coming in increments, because that's one of my questions is, if you had it all, why wouldn't you just say, oh, whoops, here's a bag full of all the stuff I took? Why do it over the course of,
Yeah.
a couple times, and then thereby increasing your chance of being caught dropping those things back
But
off?
of course, the way the story is given to us, the drawing out of the return of them is very impish behavior. Oh, ho, ho, I got the one.
Totally.
Ooh, later on, here you go. Here's the next one.
Yeah.
Hee hee. I mean,
But I can see it being a pawning situation.
that's a good idea.
Where they were just, that's in the series, that's the way
Yeah.
they got it back. And that would also explain why the gun was first, because you would, someone's gun making it on the streets.
That is,
You would want to buy that one back first, probably.
That's, probably in many ways the most useful item there,
Yeah.
so you definitely want to get that back first.
Yeah.
And I like that idea. The only problem I have with it is that if somebody is feeling remorse and, maybe they did act, why would they continue with these attacks on their house and stuff? Although, maybe, again, like you're saying, like it was a sort of maybe somebody on medications who slipped on and off his meds.
Yeah,
something
cyclical
like that.
behavior.
So at times he's feeling a little remorse, trying to he's not doing it, and then for whatever reason he goes through another one of these cycles, and he's doing it, some kind of compulsive behavior. But then get back, let's talk about another thing that makes no sense, which was the November 1993 stakeout, which
I
again,
believe I called that Goofy.
yeah, Goofy or something, or Klugey or something, but
Skloogie, I think. Yeah.
yeah.
Squoogee?
yeah.
Squoogee's not a word.
I know it's not. That's why I was weird that you called it that.
Well, it's a word now.
Yeah,
Hey.
There you go.
Bringing it back.
Hey,
Right.
hey, listeners, these are your marching orders. Make this a word. Everybody use it.
Skloogie.
Okay. Yeah. Did you say sploogie?
Skloogie.
Skloogie. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you
Okay.
got it, guys. And Devin, you mentioned this too. So what are they doing, like staking this place out on the off tiny chance this guy's going to show up
On this one particular
on
night.
This one particular night, or maybe this one series of nights. I mean, because that's a lot of time to invest just sitting there in the dark and the cold. I'm sure Ohio in late November,
It's cold.
probably pretty chilly out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's all.
Which is why it makes me think that it had to be so obvious, because I bet you the van was running to keep the heater going. I bet you Bill had some kind of heater in the trailer.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised that it probably was if it was a gas heater, it would have put off light. And if it was an electric heater, it would have been making noise. So it's, again, they weren't hiding very well.
No, I'm sure they weren't nearly as subtle as they thought they were being. And so the attack finally happens. That time they just happen to be there, but also the attacker waits until they decide to hang it up for the night. And it's almost like he was listening in on the radio, which makes him kind of a clever little fiend, or Justin. But then again, on the other hand, we've got and we talked about this, is the more severe injury Dorothy got in 1993 when she got whacked on the head. And the thinking goes that either Bill did it to Dorothy, but Bill wouldn't do that because he's not that kind of guy. But by the way, that would be dangerous. He could kill Dorothy by whacking her on the head that hard. And,
Unless
you know,
he was trying to kill her.
Maybe he was. Yeah, that's a good point.
Honey, I'm going to up the game a little bit. Just hold still. I promise it'll be okay.
It was a long con.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I know. It's like, what are you waiting for, Bill? Are you afraid you're going to kill her? No, I'm afraid I won't. Okay. Well, but then there's also Dorothy could have done it to herself, which also seems very unlikely, inflicting that kind of a wound on yourself. But on the other hand, people do fall and bang their heads all the time. I have a friend who just recently did it to herself. She just fell and banged her head, and she had to get her scalp stapled back to her skull.
Ugh.
Yeah, she got herself, you know,
Do they use a swing line?
Yeah, exactly. They use the red one. Yeah, the surgeon's like, where's the red one? I don't know, sir. Well, stop everything. I only use the red one. Okay, all right, but
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, but it could have been that Dorothy just had an accident and decided, hey, let's not let this opportunity go to waste. Let's call the police and say that somebody caught me when actually I just fell and banged my head.
True.
So it could have been that.
I wonder if they had a certain. Honestly, I wonder if they had like a certain kind of insurance.
Oh, like they were collecting off of the claim somehow?
No, I mean that like maybe this is total bunk. I'm sorry that I even said it, but what if their insurance only covered, like, you know how auto insurance you can have like, I only can be covered if I hit someone, not if like I run into a pole, right? Like I wonder if they had I don't even know if that exists, but some sort of insurance where it was like
stipulation.
Yeah, if somebody causes damage to me, it's free to get this care. But if I have an accident and cause it to myself, well, then I'm. But
that doesn't explain. That doesn't explain why you would do it.
Well, no, but it would explain if you had a fall, why you would say somebody hit me.
Actually,
I get it.
That makes sense. I mean, actually, years ago, I used to work for an insurance company, and there is an accident benefit. So if you get something through an accident, then you do actually get a higher reimbursement rate. Like it's 90% instead of like 80%.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But I think the additional accident benefit is the same as if it's a criminal thing. It's like, although maybe it is like 100% if it's a criminal attack. Maybe I don't know. But,
anyway, that's a thought, yeah, I guess at least.
It's a possibility. I mean, my theory is that it was likely both of them. But if it was going to be one or the other, I'd have to pick Dorothy as the perp. And
so Dorothy was masquerading as Justin.
Yeah, so we got to call her Justine.
Okay. There we go.
So Justine, yeah. And well, one thing, of course, there is the head injury, especially the 93 one, but also the November 94 incident. She was the only one who was really positioned to stomp on the wall of the house and also leave the note. Yeah. So.
Do you think she was something on the inside of the house?
Yeah, because here's how it works. I mean, so what happened?
No, I can see it.
No, it happened right after they decided to hang it up. So everybody gets on the radio and says, "Well, we're going to call it a night." So what happens? Kathy, her daughter, of course, would choose that moment to get up, pick up the plates or the cups or whatever, and to walk out to the kitchen to put them in the sink. So perfect opportunity for Dorothy to lean around and go thump, 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 thump on the wall of the house, and then jump up and go, "What was that?" And then run outside onto the porch and drop the note in the meantime. And she was perfectly positioned. The only one of the two, really.
Yeah.
Well, wait. I'm gonna ask a clarifying question about that. Who is the one that I'm trying not to remember what I saw on the episode because I don't want it to color this, and maybe you don't know. Who found the note?
I think that if I remember right, I don't know who actually saw it and picked it up.
Okay.
In the episode, I believe Bill reaches down and picks it up, but I don't know that for a fact.
Which is why I'm like, wait, you can't say it, because it could have been Bill had it in his pocket and went, bends over and look what I found. It's the quarter behind the ear trick.
Oh, totally. And same thing with with Dorothy. She could have just walked out and bent over part way and then bent back up with the note in her hand like this. I'm just saying that if it had to be just one of them and not a collusion between the two of them, that I would say Dorothy is the one.
Well, and it seemed to bother Bill more than it bothered Dorothy. So I can see even that, they had months where things were fine, and then he'd do something to annoy her, and she'd just go, "All right, you jerk. It's going to be another night." And
they had that really heavy piece of furniture. She knew if she shoved it, it would go funk, 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 funk as it rocked back and forth and sound like it was at the...
Yeah, or I'm imagining that, she goes to one of the bedrooms on the driveway side of the house, slides the window open surreptitiously, and she's got like a broomstick with like a boxing glove on the end of it. And so that goes bump, 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 bump on the side of the house, and then pulls it in real fast, and then runs into the living room. Bill, did you hear that? And yeah, I totally imagine.
And while he's outside with his gun, she hides the boxing glove.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He comes back in. What are you doing? Just sweeping.
Yeah, exactly.
How'd I take advantage?
Yeah. So a lot of people are all like, like thinking it was Bill, but I'm thinking more Dorothy.
I agree.
I'm thinking Dorothy.
I still think that it's got to be some family member or close neighbor.
Poltergeist.
There's always that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, there you go. So that wraps it up for this week, I think. Unless, do you guys have any other theories or anything that would cause you to lean more towards Bill versus Dorothy, or
Nope.
Dorothy over Bill? Or, yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna call it Dorothy. Although, one caveat, of course, we may be wrong. But if you have a favorite theory about this one, you'd like to contact us, of course, our email is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. And of course, you can find us on iTunes, where you can, download episodes. You can subscribe. You can rate us. You can review us. Obviously, the better the rating and the review, the better we like you. So, hey. There's also streaming services like Stitcher, they're a good one, and Google Play, and God knows how many other ones there are. We're also on Facebook. We have a group and page, and you don't friend us, but you do join the group, and there's lots of discussions. It's a fun time, good group of people, and so, like I said, like the page, join the group, and join in the fun. And of course, we are on Twitter, where we are Thinking Sideways. And most of the Twitter messages you'll see out there, actually probably all of them are written by Devin. So,
True.
Yeah.
Accurate.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But that's okay. But yeah, definitely follow us on Twitter. And last of all, we have a website, believe it or not. It's thinkingsidewayspodcast.com, where you can also download our episodes. And there's merch. If you over on the right-hand side, there's like Zazzle and Redbubble. You can buy mugs and T-shirts and I don't know, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, so that's pretty much it for me. You guys have any further comment before we go?
No, but don't get your gun out later when you hear thumping on the side of your house, Joe.
Yeah, I know. Well, seriously, I sealed my fate. I know what you guys are going to be doing tonight.
Yep.
Yeah, all right. Bye-bye,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
Bye,
Ciao.
guys. Thinking Sideways is not supported by the Society of the Blind Eye. Instead, it's supported by the generous donations of our listeners on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/thinkingsideways to learn more. And thanks.
Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a reply.
What?
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Well, hey there. Welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways. I'm your host this week, joined as always by my friends Steve and Devin. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hi,
Hey.
Joe.
Hi, audience.
Hi. Hey.
Hey, we love you. Okay, let's be serious
Hands are going
now.
wild.
So this week,
Not according to the emails.
yeah, we don't get any emails. Somebody sent us an email.
Yeah.
Yeah, just kidding. But so this week we are going to be talking about another baffling mystery. Sorry to say, this one doesn't involve any bloodshed or mutilated bodies or beheadings or anything. So sorry about that. Although I do get emails. I got an email a while back from some guy saying we were just focusing too much on bloody stuff.
I agree. We always do.
Yeah, we kind of do a lot. So,
Last couple haven't been, though.
yeah, no, not really. We did the
We
little.
drifted away.
Yeah, there was that one.
That was cool. Shut up.
I'm sorry, that was part of a keychain, I think. Where am I? Okay, back to our story. It begins in 1976. On March 16th of that year, Prime Minister Harold Wilson of the United Kingdom suddenly announced that he was resigning his job, just like that. He hadn't even been in it for 2 years. He also didn't give a reason why. He just said he was quitting, and people have been wondering about it ever since. And so people are saying, why did he resign? And this has been going on for 30 plus years. And as recently as just this past August, the Daily Mail in the UK published yet another article about it. With
The
yet
reputable
another theory.
news source.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I quote them a little later on, but I'm not totally placing total credence on their theory. But just goes to show you, in the UK at least, this story is actually still talked about.
Can we be honest?
Yeah.
In the UK, if it's been in the Daily Mail more than twice, it's been in the Daily Mail about 37 times because they love to trot things out on a
They let
slow
them
day.
retread. Yeah, I know.
I swear they've got like a Rolodex of old stories. Let's dust off this one.
Yeah, kind of like Bat Boy.
Yeah.
The Bat Boy.
I like Bat Boy.
I like Bat Boy too. The Bat Boy appears in 12 Monkeys, by the way.
He does.
Yeah. Okay, first, just a quick little background. Harold Wilson entered the British Parliament in 1945 as a Labour MP. He was actually, it was kind of
a Minister of Parliament.
Oh, yeah, member of Parliament.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, not military police. And it was kind of a fluke in a sense because he was actually in academia, and some Labour Party types decided they wanted to put him up to run in this one district. They didn't think he was going to win. They just wanted a candidate to run, and well, it turns out he won. And so he was a part of Parliament, and he was in Parliament for 30 years after. And he quickly rose through the ranks in the Labour Party. That I didn't mention he's Labour. And by 1963, he was Shadow Foreign Secretary.
Awesome title.
I know. I kind of like that.
What is?
So when you're in the opposition, you're out of power of the party. You still have a full.
Oh, so like minority.
Yeah. You're the
majority.
Yeah,
okay,
but you still have a full cabinet.
So he's like the minority foreign secretary.
Yeah. So essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you're when you.
I prefer the way that they do that.
Yeah, you
shadow.
like the parliamentary thing. Yeah.
I like shadow member.
Yeah, you got these guys.
Shadow
Shadow secretary.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's almost like Harry Potter was written in the UK or something.
Almost.
Yeah.
Weird.
So you get to wear a cape and everything. It's got a little mask. Okay. Opportunity came knocking. Hugh Gaitskell, the head of the party, that's the Labour Party, was suddenly stricken with a rare disease called systemic lupus erythematosus. I'm sure I mispronounced that.
It's
It's
always
lupus.
lupus.
Yeah, but we'll call it lupus. He just was stricken and suddenly died. Bam, like that. It was at the age of 56. It's kind of a shocker for everybody. But of course, they had to elect a new leader. There was an election within the party. Harold Wilson was elected as Gaitskell's successor, and then in the following year, 1964, Labour won a majority of seats in Parliament, and Harold Wilson became Prime Minister, just like that.
Is that how it works?
Yeah,
It's like the House Majority Leader is Prime Minister.
kind of like that. Yeah, if you're the head of the party, then you become Prime Minister.
Interesting.
And what it took me a while to really wrap my head around is that in this country, our elections are very regimented. They're every 2 years for certain seats, or every 4 years for other seats.
Or 6 years for the Senate.
Right, but if for Parliament, it's
Any old time.
It's you can't go more than 5 years without an election. So at 2 years, you could say, I'm going to prove that we're still strong and have an election.
Sure.
Or you could wait till 4 years or wait till the fifth. It's really kind of willy-nilly a little bit. It's strange.
It totally is. Or
Like the national elections are like that.
Yes.
Literally, somebody's just like, you know what? Let's have an election this year.
Yeah, if there's, yeah, or
Okay.
or sometimes what happens is, say, if no party wins a majority, a solid majority, then they have to form a coalition, and sometimes the coalitions, well, they start quarreling and they break up, and bam, and then it's time for elections.
And I know the Queen comes in at some point in this entire process, but I don't remember where that is.
Yeah, she comes in and just spanks them or something when they're
Throws
misbehaving.
6 the corgis on them.
Yeah.
Okay, so
back
Harold
to-
Wilson just ends up randomly
So
being
Hugh-
Prime Minister.
Yeah, so Harold, becomes Prime Minister. And back to Hugh Gaitskell for a second. His death, as I said, was very, very shocking to everybody. And, of course, it spawned a few conspiracy theories, which gives us a nice little mystery within a mystery, which was he murdered.
That's why you picked this.
Yeah, and by whom? The one theory that's out there is the Soviets murdered him because they wanted him out of the way
Well, who else?
so that their buddy Wilson would be in line for the Prime Minister slot. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. But it's still a popular theory. It's out there. Harold Wilson served as Prime Minister until 1970 when Labour got turned out.
So that's 6 years?
Yep, 6 years roughly. And then in 1974, Labour came back in, so he became Prime Minister again. And then less than 2 years later, March 16, 1976, he announced that he was resigning. And to this day, we still don't actually know why.
And I'm trying to remember, who was it that was Prime Minister in between? Because it was one guy in that 4-year
I
span.
believe it was Edward Heath.
Yes.
That was it,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was. And Heath, so this is where that whole, we're going to have an election. Heath decided to do this, to have an election to prove that what he was doing was right and was going
And
to win.
turned out maybe not.
And it turned out he totally got it handed to him, and that's how how Harold ended up back in office.
Yeah, and I don't think Harold actually came in with a resounding majority. I think he had 3 seats extra. That was about it. So it wasn't huge, but, it was enough to make him prime minister.
Yeah.
All right, let's go straight into theories. I mean, that's a short story, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in my mind, the answer is pretty short, right? It's like being prime minister probably kind of sucks.
It could be.
And he did it for like 6 years, and then he was like, oh, crap, this again? And then he did it for a couple years, and he was like, no, I really do hate this. Bye.
Well, that's
there you go. That's my theory. Episode over? Great.
That's a plausible theory.
No? Okay.
Yeah, that is a plausible theory. But there's many others, and some of them are juicier than that.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a good practical theory, I do have to admit. Thank you. Well, first theory, and this is only a partial theory, was that his wife just wanted out, because his wife, Mary, was a very private person. I mean,
she didn't want to be a politician's wife.
No, not really. Not at all.
She was like a professor's wife.
Right? Yeah, she really preferred the academic life, and that's what Harold was originally, was an academic, and she kind of preferred that, and she didn't like the publicity and all that. She didn't like the nastiness of all the politics, and in all the years since he left and the years since he died, she's pretty much stayed out of the public light, and she's not talked to anybody. She's given like one interview in that entire time, I think.